our next pitch is actually a group pitch. So we're going to start bringing the whole group onto the Zoom stage. Or I think actually Dr. Avant is going to do their pitch, and then everyone will join for some questions at the end. Their pitch is on creating schools as a transformative space where children are recognized as experts in their own learning. And so just want to call out, this is by Nicole, Brice, Ashley, and Stephanie. And Nicole is going to start their pitch. Let's see, Maya, is our timer ready? Great. So whenever you're ready, go for it.
People often ask me, how have I become so free? The honest answer is it has been a process I wish I started as a child. Because as we age, our bodies, especially those of us who live in Black and other racialized bodies, experience a reduced quality and quantity of life due to bearing the weight of navigating a lifetime of indignities, devaluation, rejection, abandonment, unsafety, isolation, and trauma. It becomes challenging for many of us to reconnect with our bodies, discern our thoughts from our programming, and resist the pressure to present as mere robots, where we forget to feel, to rest, to eat, to drink, to play, and to love. Imagine a world where we remain deeply attuned to our needs, our feelings, and our bodily sensations, where we start to unlearn harmful and violent messages about ourselves at a young age, where we disrupt systems of disempowerment without hesitation because it is the norm and we possess the awareness and the community to do so. Well, we prioritize rest, self-compassion, and responsiveness to our needs, enhancing our ability to not only show up for ourselves, but our communities as well. If we want liberation, then we must practice liberation. Liberation requires us to develop a loving self-relationship that replaces our oppressor's gaze with the nourishing one. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, and so then we all need to start acting like it. Witness. Liberation requires us to witness and treat members of community with dignity, acceptance, love, and care, even if they exist at the margins. As we envision a more compassionate and aware society, it is crucial that we engage in these conversations to hold ourselves accountable and those with less societal power than us. By fostering dialogue and self-reflection early, we build critical thinkers. Divergent thinkers will contribute to dismantling oppressive systems and creating a more authentic, equitable, pleasurable, inclusive, liberated future for us all. Our program aims to do just that. Offer a space for children to start these conversations sooner than later. We want children to develop a healthy relationship with themselves and others. We want them to resist assimilation and keep their authentic expressions and identities. To realize this vision, we are pitching a semester-long after-school pilot. It can take place on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 90 minutes each, to develop healthy beliefs, belief systems, and practices. Our methods includes introducing a topic, offering time for student reflections, sharing the reflections in small and large groups, co-creating the action steps, and practicing the skills necessary to implement those action steps. Not only will students be the center of the program, but we want to incorporate teacher and family nights as well. My theory is that we dominate and disrespect children and strip them of their autonomy because they don't produce in the ways that we have been socialized to produce. If we as adults learn to detach our worth from productivity, we will then learn the inherent value and the brilliance and the innocence of children. Teacher and family nights will also be used to bond, strengthen relationships at home and in the classroom, manage our feelings so we don't yell and scream and project when we are upset, listen to students share how they have been harmed and develop strategies to encourage love and respect at home and in the classroom. And to encourage flow of the program, we will accept families already committed to these values. They just need a little extra support. We aim to evaluate the following key outcomes. Have children gained an increased awareness of the concept of consent and are actively incorporating it into their daily interactions? Can children comprehend their positionalities within larger societal structures, fostering a deeper understanding of their role and influence? Is there an enhanced self-image among the children and positive perceptions of marginalized communities? Are children gaining a stronger sense of self and better able to advocate for themselves? Did the children grow in their peer leadership and relational skills to encourage initiative, collaboration, and support of one another? Did they exhibit heightened levels of compassion towards themselves and others, fostering a more empathetic and caring community? And did they feel more respected at home and in the classroom? Now, this program, this pilot, it draws on inspiration from our current work in transforming organizations into anti-oppressive and restorative entities. My ask of you is to please vote for us, because the more that I have learned to not abuse power in every space, even at home with my children, the more my children show up authentically and just in the world. They rave about their experiences of childhood, so much so that my home has become a place of refuge. Every child in my home has had a friend that has tried to run away from home to my home to escape abuse. Children, arguably the most marginalized group in our society, should all have a space to be free, flourish, and change the world. This program is the beginning to that, so vote for us.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that compelling vision of what school, home, childhood can and should look like. Sorry, it took me a minute to talk because I'm over here crying, Dr. Avant. So thank you for that. Let's get our panel back up here. And let's see what questions. Let's see. Let's go with Superintendent Wright and then Board Member Morosky.
All right, thank you, and thank you so much for the pitch. Kudos just on the conversation. And one of the things that you started with was talking about transformative space, and I think that that's really important. So as you think about the pilot that you are currently working on, how are you reaching, there are populations of students, everyone could benefit from what you're referring to, but there are some populations that need it more than others. How are you identifying those? And if you think about policy ramifications or administrative recommendations or those kinds of things, what would be needed, or what have you found that would offer additional support?
Well, I think the first thing is that we want to talk with the administrators of the school to find out which kids are, exhibiting signs where they really need to understand and be coached around consent, which would mean, no, which would mean, I, am interested in protecting my body and understanding that, right? The other part is that we do want to do, as we are kind of recruiting some of those kids, we also want to ensure that the parents are on board as well. So we're going to do an application process too, so that parents understand that the lessons that they're going to learn within this particular activity might show up at home. Whereas the kid, if the parent is saying, I need you to go do this right now, and the kid is doing their homework, or maybe they're sort of hanging out talking on the phone, it's like, no, not right now. And those can be shocking to hear from our kids, but those are also skills that we do need our kids to learn, because if they can't learn in the safety and the protective nature of the home, then where else can they learn? And so that is sort of the beginning process to get the ball rolling.
Thank you, Stephanie, because I think boundaries are hard for adults to even set or honor. And I think it's important for us to learn boundaries at home. What does it look like to set boundaries with the person that, love me the most? And so that I am empowered to do that later. So thank you for mentioning that. But really, it's an application process. We envision it to be an application process for everyone. We hope, though, that those are at the margins or the extreme margins, our queer children, our neurodivergent children. We hope that there is language, obviously, that will be sure to include that we want those children, and we hope that they are a big part of our program, because we don't want them to lose their sense of self as they work to be this one type of narrow way that we have told children and adults that they need to be.
Absolutely. Board Member Morosky, I know you had something you wanted to ask or contribute.
Thanks, Elisa, and good to see you, Dr. Avant and Brice and Ashley and Stephanie and all y'all. Appreciate your work, as you know. I think you answered some of my question with the superintendent's question. But so for the application process, you'd be looking for a pilot. It would be like district-wide, not at a specific place, right? I heard that, correct? Okay. And then are you thinking like it's like an after school sort of thing? I know there's elements of like home and in the school or during school, et cetera. And you may have said that and I apologize, but when would you see this occurring?
Yeah, we would see it occurring after school. That would be the number one choice, right? But there's also, there can be complications with that. So, how do we integrate it then into the school, right? Into the school day. And that's something that we can talk about with administrators. The other part of that is that while we want to foresee this over the next 5 years, kind of move larger district wide, it's more likely that we would start in 1 or 2 schools to see how it moves, to get some results, right? So that when we're kind of moving it to the larger system, we can say, hey, here's the results that we got in these 2 schools. How do you all feel about this? How does this look for your population? And so, yeah, so we're looking at, starting a little bit smaller, but then moving out to the larger district.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
I would just contribute to that and say this program is based around equity. And so I think we want to be equitable in how we deliver it. And some of that is by, and I've seen this from amazing organizations like Avant Consulting and Cohere specifically, but how do we attend to the needs of the folks who need to be there? And so how do we break down barriers so folks who might traditionally not be able to participate in something like this can? That's definitely at the forefront.
And another thing I always think of when you talk about consent and showing up at home, and I thought you were going to use this example. But my wife and I, we don't make our son hug anybody or smile at anybody. We tell him he can't be a jerk. You're like, you don't have to talk to them, you don't have to give him a hug, but you have to be nice to Nana. I see it showing up at home too. Like all of a sudden, like you taught my kid they don't have to hug their grandparents. Like that's correct. But here's why.
Yes.
So, but anyway. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
it.
I love that because I think that's one of the things that I was very insistent as my nieces were growing up, is that we do not have to hug, but we do need to say hello.
You have
We
you
can
have
say
to be
hello to
nice.
one another,
You have
right?
to
We
be
need to
nice
be
to Miss
polite,
Bolton, even if you don't
and
want to
those
hug
kind of
her.
things. Exactly. And that can be a very tricky balance between the traditional way that we tell kids and we show kids what respect looks like versus the way that we can push all the people in our kids' lives to recognize that they have bodily autonomy and that they and they'll probably give you a hug, but maybe not today. Maybe they're feeling insular today, that kind of thing. So it's a real opportunity to help families as a whole embrace the way kids are showing up for themselves and ultimately for the community.
Well, thank you. What a compelling pitch and a compelling vision for what childhood in our community can and should look like. So thank you to that pitch group.